You're listening to the Behind Ears podcast, because everybody does Disney differently.
Expedition Roasters, they are that roaster that does specialty Disney-inspired coffees. You know, why not brew some of that magic in your own? You know, we all like to bring that Disney flavor to your house. So some of their coffees include Skipper's Brew, Ghoulish Delight, Enchanted Tiki Coconut, the famous Redhead Rum, and my personal favorite, which is the Route 66, which if you are a fan of small businesses and like just mild coffee like me, the best way to go is either Route 66, or if you want the dark roast, go with their dark side. Highly recommend both of them. You know, if you have never ordered through Expedition Roasters, simply head over to expeditionroasters.com and use our special promo code EARS20. That's EARS20, and that'll save you a whopping 20% off your first order. So why not brew your happy place? Head on over to expeditionroasters.com. Do you go to Disney with kids? Aren't you tired of lugging around that stroller? Got to get on the plane, especially if you're Spirit, man. If you're Spirit, you fly them and you got to bring your stroller, you might as well just buy one from Amazon and ship it there. But why spend all that extra money and then have to throw it out and donate it? I've got you guys covered. Head on over to kingdomstrollers.com. They have a stroller that will fit every family, double, triple, single, front, back, backwards, forward, whatever you want, we got it. Well, I say we, I'm not part of them, but they've got it for you. They've got an assortment of colors. Who knew strollers came in more than black? I didn't know this. They've got running strollers. They got so many strollers. So simply head over to kingdomstrollers.com and let them know Behind the Ears podcast sent you. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's find out if his audio issues are fixed.
Oh, you want me to say something?
Oh, he's back. You guys should have heard it. I hope did you save any of the clips of your voice?
I'm sure I have a couple clips of it still. It automatically saves when I do this, but yeah, so yeah, I'm back. I just needed a reboot, but woohoo! But
perfect.
I will tell you, everybody, right now, there's a very good chance my camera's going to go out again. So I know it. I might freeze on your end. It'll look black on my end. No big whoop-de-doo of a deal. It is life as we know it. So I'll go ahead and click on a little button here, and we'll get going. So in a 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everybody. That we're tuning in to another episode of Behind the Ears podcast. I am Uncle Danny, the man in the blue, the man with the plan. That is Mr. Chris. Sir, how you doing on this fine Thursday evening?
Hey, man.
I'm going to assume he's doing well. He froze, and I lost his audio.
Really?
Now you're back.
Really? Well, the thing is, I'm here. I'm still here. And that's good.
You're like the reverse of Mr. Kool-Aid. You got the blue shirt on. I love it. Because you're wearing an all blue shirt. I'm not colorblind, right? That's blue.
Oh, it's blue, but I'm saying, so you're saying
reverse. Yeah, versus Kool-Aid.
Because Kool-Aid's doing the red.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Chris is the, oh no, I froze. Well, we have an awesome show lined up. But, I give credit where credit is due. Chris did the legwork. He got some fantastic guests for you tonight to talk a little Disney. You know what? I'm not even going to tell you what we're going to talk about. Chris, why don't you tell everybody what we're going to talk about?
All righty. So now I told everybody that we were going to have 2 guests on tonight. And right now we're having a little bit of problems. I'm waiting for Andrea to be able to join into our lobby. If she's still able to do that, she is more than welcome to join. We're just having some technical difficulties on her end.
She's here.
Oh, she is here.
Mm-hmm.
That is great. I'm glad to hear that. I can't always see everything that Danny does.
Absolutely.
Now, we're going to do something different tonight. We have gotten 2 of our listeners to join us tonight. They both have survived a Disney vacation around spring break, and they both just came back, and I can't wait to talk to them about how they felt the crowds were and everything else. One of them stayed on site, who's a DVC member. One of them stayed off site. And so we're going to do some comparison and some contrast, and we're going to see what did they have to say about what has been called the second busiest time that you can go to Walt Disney World. So, Danny, bring on our guests, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, first up, it is the notorious Mr. Jesse. How we doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Very well. Oh, boy, that's on me. That's on me. My bad. Now we're doing well.
I'm back. There we go.
And let's bring
Jesse,
on
how you
our
doing
next
tonight, my
guest.
friend?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, guys.
The lovely Miss Andrea. Boom, there it is.
Hi.
Hey.
And she can hear us perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. I am glad that both of you are here. Just goes to show a little bit of perseverance, and we get everybody on the show. And so this is awesome. Guys, first off, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's kind of late on a Thursday. Just to kind of introduce you a little bit, earlier in the week over on the WDW community page, I did ask people to, send us an email over at behindearspodcast@gmail.com to kind of let me know if you've actually survived your spring break trip over at Disney recently. And both Andrea and Jesse said, hey, I just came back. And so I'm like, cool. And so we're actually going to talk to them a little bit. And first off, Andrea, since I'm kind of going from left to right on my page here, or my screen over here, Andrea, why don't you tell us, first off, what state are you calling from tonight, and when did you go on your trip?
I am calling from Maryland, and we got there on March 24th and left on the evening of Easter, actually. And we had a great trip, crowds and all.
Okay, and where did you stay at?
We stayed at Saratoga Springs.
Okay, my home resort. I love
Mine
Saratoga.
too. Mine too.
I love it. It's a very understated and yet underrated resort. We'll get into that in just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesse, what state are you calling from tonight?
I'm calling from Illinois.
Oh,
Yes,
the great state of Illinois. And there's two parts of Illinois. There's Chicago and there's everything else. And you're a part of the Chicago part, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. I'm from Plainfield, Illinois, suburb from Chicago.
Okay, most excellent. Okay, so, quite honestly, we've never done an episode with more than one guest, and
Quad box. That's what I'm calling this show, the Quad Box.
The Quad Box. Okay, Danny, thanks a lot for that. Forever, it's going to be burnt in our minds. And for those of you who only watch the podcast, every once in a while, you're going to have to come over to the Behind Ears Podcast Facebook page and just watch us live and actually watch us record this, because, we've always said that we are an live, unedited, unscripted show. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I guarantee you we are going to fulfill that phrase. So Andrew, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
I have to ask, and I'm really sorry. I'm really not too organized tonight. Jesse, when was your trip?
We drove. We left on the 22nd. We arrived on the 23rd. And we came back on the 7th. But we did half Disney, half Universal. So the first 3 days were Disney. And then the other 3 days were Universal Studios.
Okay. Now, and just out of curiosity, when you drove, did you stop anywhere, because of like a layover, so to speak?
No, we went straight through. I drove 13 hours. My wife drove 6. In that order.
I know exactly. I know what that's like. And
we had 3 kids. A 14-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Oof, no.
God bless you.
It was great.
All I gotta say is, holy cow! I know how it goes. Because I drive a lot myself. I know how it goes, and I think the longest I've driven was like 14 and a half hours in a day. And I got to tell you, that's a long time with your hands up on the wheel and going like it is. So that's
yeah.
So since you're there and Andrea's not on the screen right now, so first off, since you split your trip between Disney and Universal, the first question that comes to my mind is, which one do you think you had a better experience at overall? Then we'll get into some details, but if you can rate the craziness, in a sense of not so bad versus holy cow, how would you rate that?
I had a better time at Disney. The craziness, I'm going to say it was crazier at Disney. It was crazy at Universal Studios, but from noon to 5. Before then, dead. After 5, dead. You could walk on most of the rides at Universal Studios.
Oh, really? So basically, it was just a small slice in the afternoon that was absolutely nutso.
Yes.
So like that peak of the day, like 12 to 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when it would be ridiculous. You would look at like Harry Potter rides and it'd be like 3 hours, and I'm like, no, we're just gonna wait, and we would wait till after 6-7 o'clock, and it'd be an hour 45 minutes, and by nighttime, by the time they closed, because they closed at 9, some of them had like 30-minute waits.
Whew. Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I mean, I would have thought that especially around Harry Potter, that it would have been, from rope drop to closing, maximum wait times all over the place. But it's interesting that it's a significant wave in the middle of the day. Here's the funny part: it's the time of the day that I normally would be taking a mid-afternoon break. That's interesting. It seems like I'm going for the break. Everybody else is going for the rides. I mean, it's if it was Disney, that's how I'm reading into it. Now, taking that into consideration, if you stayed off site, I mean, did you stay at Universal or did you stay at like a third-party resort somewhere in the Orlando area?
We rented a condo. And kind of like in between both parks, because we knew we were going to do half Disney, half Universal. We kind of picked a condo right in the middle, like right off the expressway, so you can get it. It was about 20-minute drive to any of the Disney parks or 25-minute drive to Universal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So was that more like in the Kissimmee area, like south, or like kind of?
I think it was in Kissimmee.
Okay. Now I have to ask, what did you think about renting a condo, and was this the first time that you rented a condo for a trip?
Yeah, it was the first time we rented, and I thought it was great. It was big. It had more than enough space. Had a full kitchen, which helped because we would wake up, make breakfast, and then make sandwiches, snacks for the kids, and then load up the cooler, and then let's go.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. I mean, now how many bedrooms was it? Just out of curiosity.
3 bedrooms.
Oh man!
And full kitchen, right?
Yes, sir.
Laundry and washer and dryer.
Yep.
That's a killer deal, man. That's a killer deal.
It was worth it. It was worth it. And my father-in-law went for half the trip too, so he actually had another room while my 2 boys shared a room, and then my daughter was with my wife. Then when my father-in-law left, my boys split the rooms.
Okay.
So it was more than enough space.
I'm sorry.
That's kind of interesting. No, I was gonna say, Danny, go ahead.
No, now I'm a proponent of staying off property. I always, Chris is DVC, so it's a lot easier for Chris to stay on property. For me, I'm they call me bougie, but with the bouginess, it's kind of hard to be bougie in Disney when you're going as much as I was going. So I kind of started adapting and staying off site. And these condos always intrigued me. Now, tell me this though. I know how it affects me, but I want to see how it affects a family. How did it affect you guys not getting those extra magic hours?
It not so much. It didn't really affect us because we would spend most of the day at the park. I mean, we had like an itinerary of what we're gonna do, where we're gonna go, how we're gonna move around. I mean, obviously, for staying on property, you're gonna wake up early and take advantage of the extra early magic hours, or know you're going to stay late to take advantage of the extra magic hours at night. Since we knew we were just going to go from park open to close, we mapped it out that way, and it worked out perfect for us.
See, yeah, that's the big proponent. People need to realize that if you're someone like me, or even like how Chris had mentioned, where you like to take those mid-afternoon breaks from the park, go back to the room, staying off site is almost detrimental due to the fact of you don't get those. Now during the summer, though, I will say this: a lot of times I've been looking, a lot of these magic hours are in the morning. So unless you're going to use it in the morning, it's not like you're getting anything on the back end because these parks are staying open until 11 p.m. So, and that's the aspect. You got to also know your time of year. You know, during the holidays, you're seeing the park stay open at late at night more. So that's where if you want to take that afternoon break, it's better that way. But if you're not going to take that afternoon break, yes, stay off property, save yourself some money. But you just got to realize that if once you're there, you're there. You know, it's not as easy to park hop if you're driving to the parks. It's not that easy to park hop.
That's true.
We're going to assume that you did drive to the parks and not did like Uber or anything.
Oh no, yeah, we drove.
Okay.
Now, are you guys AP members or no?
Yeah, we were.
Okay, so
we were.
That makes sense for the paying free.
Our last day was our last day, which was the 26th. That was our last AP. That was the day of our AP ending. So we finished off our last day at Magic Kingdom.
Oh, okay.
I have to ask, how many days do you estimate that you got out of your annual pass over the past year?
Oh crap! 4 trips. 4 trips. We went for spring break last year. We went for Halloween with the kids, and then me and my wife went in January for her birthday, and then this spring break. So 4 trips.
20 days.
Yeah, probably 20 days.
Yeah, so you more than paid for your AP.
Oh yeah, and it was worth it. And we're gonna do it again. We're just gonna wait 2 years.
Okay. Hey, I had to take a year off too. I know, man. 4 trips in a year, it's costly.
Yeah,
even driving. I mean, you got kids. That's even worse.
Yeah.
And the whole driving versus flying bit. I mean, I know exactly that deal because quite honestly, I just paid for 5 plane tickets for my next trip, which, as we know, is sometime between now and Christmas, as I keep telling people. All I got to say is that I was really glad when I found out that my tax refund pretty much matched how much my airfare was. So I'm like, whoo. So as soon as that bill comes in, that refund check will be going out. Yeah. So, okay, that's really cool. Now, let me go ahead and switch gears a little bit. I want to talk to Andrea. She's been waiting patiently. She's been fighting the technical demons back. So now, Andrea, you stayed on site. You were at Saratoga.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make an assumption that you spent your entire time at Disney. You didn't necessarily do anything off property. Would that be a correct assumption?
That is correct.
Okay. So let me ask you this. How crazy did you think Disney was during your trip? And keeping in mind, I realize that some of it's subjective, but maybe compare it to some of your other trips. And, were you expecting the crowds to be as big as they were?
Yes, because we typically go during spring break because that's when my kids have off school and I have older kids and, it just works out the best for us. So I had realistic expectations going into it, but I do think that it's gotten busier the past few years than it used to be during spring break.
Okay, so and that thing is there's a lot of people that have been saying that exact same thing, and I know there's probably still some rescheduled vacations that are contributing to the crowdedness. Those from the past hurricanes of last
right.
But hopefully that's going to start dropping off sometime in the near future because we obviously can't be using that as an excuse the entire time.
Right.
Now, with that being said, how did you deal with the crowds? Like, what kind of things did you prepare? So especially since you've been there before around this time, you have a little bit of an advantage over some people that have never been there during spring break. What kind of things did you prepare in order to deal with the crowds?
Well, I do my fast passes at the 60-day mark as soon as it opens. We do our dining 6 months. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, do all that, get that all planned. We rope drop the parks, do as much as we can, use our fast passes, and then go back to the hotel for a little while when the parks are at their worst, and then come back in the evening. And there are times that we do stay at the park all day, but we try to do the things that don't typically have a long line, like Mickey's PhilharMagic or stuff like that. So we're not standing in the really long lines.
Okay. And to be honest, it sounds like you kind of subscribe to Chris's version of how to plan for very busy times, patent pending. And so now so let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you did that you really enjoyed? I mean, some things that were really special to you. I mean, obviously, if you are a planner, like it sounds like you are, you got your fast passes. What were some of the special fast passes that you really had, that you felt like you really had to have in order to enjoy those attractions?
Flight of Passage, for sure. My favorite ride in all of Disney.
How do your kids?
Always have to have.
I have to
My
ask.
kids loved it. They loved it. And we actually rode it for the first time over the summer. And since I have little ones in strollers, we also get a rider switch. So some of my kids got to ride more than once.
Good deal.
So, and I always get Test Track because that's my favorite. That was my favorite before Flight of Passage. So we always have Test Track. Those are definitely my must-do rides. I don't know. We did Pirates this time. I don't normally get a fast pass for Pirates, but I'd heard that recently the lines have been a lot longer for that than they used to be. So I did Pirates. So the kids were excited to see the changes for that. Toy Story. Toy Story, definitely have to have a fast pass for that.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a ride in that and Rock and Roller Coaster. If you want to go to MGM, you better make sure that you're prepared for that.
I love that you still call it MGM. So do I.
It'll always be MGM to me.
Yes.
Um,
The day that we went to Animal Kingdom, there was a 210-minute wait for Flight of Passage. There's no way. I love that ride, but there's no way I would wait that.
No, I've said to myself, Flight of Passage is like an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half at the absolute max, and I'll wait. And I basically have to have nothing else better to do.
That's 3 hours and 20 minutes. People.
Yeah, there's no way.
Do you know how much I can accomplish in almost 3.5 hours?
Oh, you said 210. No, I'm saying an hour and 15 minutes. I hope I said that.
No. I
Yeah,
understand.
you did.
I was just reiterating that 3 hours and 20 minutes is a really long time to wait for a 3-minute ride.
Which is actually longer than the movie Avatar to begin with, I might.
Well, that's why they do it. They want you to watch the movie in line so that when you get up there, you're well versed. See?
Dude, that's like a fantastic idea. Seriously, play Avatar over and over again. Last summer, when Pandora opened and Flight of Passage was really big, I'll never forget. You turn on the one channel in the resort TV, and they just played Avatar 24/7.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I mean, again, I like the movie. That's one of those things. Jesse, did you get a chance to ride Flight of Passage yourself?
Yes, I did.
I have to add. Right,
we got fast pass. We couldn't find fast passes because we're not staying on property, so we didn't have the whole, getting them early. So every day on the app, I'm checking before our trip. I'm checking, and next thing you know, it shows up 11:30 a.m. and I'm like, what? So I clicked on it right away and I got it. And then with that one, it was for me and my son. So then I went again and I got another one like 2 days before for my wife and my other son. And then we were able to do the rider swap, so they were able to go on 4 times and I went on twice. I think, yeah.
You see, that's a great example. I mean, because everybody keeps on saying, if you're not staying on property, you're going to have a hard time getting, e-ticket type of attractions like Flight of Passage. You just proved that it is possible to get, last minute fast passes.
You just have to check. You have to be on that app. Like seriously, like you have to be on the app. Like, all right, two people, what day, and then just refresh. Mm-hmm. Okay, nothing. Check in an hour, refresh, and then they're there.
That's a good point. I mean, if nothing else, it should give people hope, because I really do think that there is an aspect to that people don't realize. And, I realize that part of being on property is the fact that you have that cool 60-day window. And I know that so many people try so hard to, get it. I keep on seeing people saying, what time do I have to get up in the morning to get my fast passes done? Is it Eastern time? Is it Central time? That sort of thing. And then, of course, you have people that are on the West Coast saying, wow, that means I've got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning in order to get my fast passes. And I think you just proved it. I proved that you don't necessarily have to do that, but people do. I mean, we do. I'll admit it. Get up at the crack of dawn at our 60-day mark, and my wife is diligently on the computer, and it's kind of funny. She'll ask like, "Hey, I can get Flight of Passage for this time. Should I?" She's like, "Should I?" And before she actually finishes the word, phrase, "should I?" I'm like, "Yes, just get it." And,
now, let me ask the both of you something. Now, you both travel frequently during spring break.
Yes.
What about you, Jesse? Is this normal for you, or was this a spur of the moment trip for you?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
We try to go.
So, compared to previous years leading up, have we seen a bigger influx of crowds during this time? Is it about average? Is it a little bit less? How would you judge it on your personal experience? Either one of you can go first. Ladies first. Go ahead.
Okay. I think the past couple years, the crowds have been bigger.
So you think they're steadily growing each year?
Yes. I think it's not just this year. I think it's been steadily growing for sure. But where you really feel it is Magic Kingdom, not so much the other parks. It's Magic Kingdom is where everybody's crammed in.
That's a shock because I could see. Well, you know what? I guess they feel. I'm going to go on a limb here before Jesse answers and say, well, MGM has turned to a half-day park.
at least for another 75, 80 days, and then all.
then it's a whole then MGM's back, baby. You're back.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I guess people are looking at maybe Animal Kingdom and seeing the line of Pandora and saying, we don't want to wait. We're gonna go somewhere else. And then a lot of people look at Epcot and say, hey, listen, I got kids. There's really not much going on. So, I mean, Magic Kingdom, at the end of the day, is always going to be the most crowded park. Hands down. It's just
right.
Even when Star Wars opens, once you get past that first wave of, oh, my God, the new shiny thing, like a cat in a room, it's all everybody's going to come back to reality and be like, okay, we want to go to Magic Kingdom. If I'm there for 4 days or 5 days, I'm hitting Magic Kingdom as much as I can. But, Jesse, how do you think the crowds have been?
They've been getting worse as the years, because we went 2016, it was packed. 2017 last year, same. Magic Kingdom was still very, very full. Last year we went in spring break. I don't think Pandora was open yet, Animal Kingdom. So it wasn't as packed as it was when we went back in October and we went back this time. And Magic Kingdom is just, like you guys said, it's always like this. People just moving.
I saw the other day. It was the corridor in between Splash and Thunder Mountain, and it was elbows to noses. And I mean, I can't say I've never seen it like that before, but I could say that I've been in a crowd like that before, and I could say that it is not necessarily my cup of teacups. That's cool.
To me, it's honestly a luck of the draw. I mean, you can plan the best you can depending on your family's, criteria when you can travel and everything. I've been to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party like 5 years in a row. This is actually the first year I'm going to miss it. I'm really sad about that, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, I was there a few years ago when they oversold it by 10,000 people. How you oversell something by 10,000 people, once again, it's a story for another day. But I've seen them progress. Everything, it's so funny because me and Chris have said this so many times. As ticket prices rise, people complain more and more, but the packs get packed more and more. It doesn't make sense because every year I remember paying $50, $60 for tickets for Mickey's Not So Scary. Last year I paid $119, and it was more packed last year than we'll take out the one they oversold, but last year was busier than the years previous leading up to it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with that. I mean, none of us like to talk about ticket price increases. I mean, it's paramount to make sure that we understand nobody likes ticket increases. Nobody likes, especially when annual passes go up by large chunks. And yeah, agreed. Nobody likes some of the add-on things that they're going to end up doing, like parking and this, that, and the other. But people have to. Yeah, I can't talk tonight. People have to understand supply and demand, and if they keep on seeing people show up, they're gonna. the ticket prices are not going to matter. And I mean, as long as they don't get to the, someone referred to it as the John Hammond methodology of pricing, and that was a Jurassic Park reference, where he's like, we could charge people, $100 a day, $1,000 a day, $10,000 a day, and they'll still come. There are, I think lately there's been many more outcries with it, but I think people have got to understand that it is what it is. Being annual pass holders, I think all of us realize the value of being a pass holder. I sure did, and I did kind of like what Jesse did. The whole idea of, you get it 1 year, and you really use the heck out of it, and then you use it all the way up into the last day, and then you wait another year, or you wait until whatever your next trip is, and then you start the cycle all over again. But you kind of do a 2-year plan, and so you can make sure you get it, and then you use it on the 365th day. And it just makes more financial sense, even though it's an outlay of cash first. So it is what it is, but I totally understand. Now, it wouldn't be a show if Danny and I didn't ask.
Where'd you?
I was going to go down the path of, I wanted to start with counter service eateries, because obviously when you have crowds like that, the counter service eateries are the ones that are going to become the most congested. And then we'll get into the table service ones, of course. So what did you experience along the lines of dining, and how did you experience that? I mean, was it pretty good? Did you try the mobile ordering app or anything like that? What did you do with that? And Jesse, let's start with you this time.
The first day we were there, we went to Hollywood Studios, and where did we eat? I don't even remember. The back lot. We ate at the back lot.
I like back lot.
Yeah, and that's where we always go. And I didn't really think there was much of a line. I went, got a table, sat with the kids, wife ordered the food, and everything was fine. No issues, no complaints.
And was that earlier in the lunchtime, or?
It was around 2.
Oh, so it was later.
Yeah, we had a late lunch.
Now that's kind of interesting, because you would think that with so many crowds, it would be relatively crowded the entire time. But
it was Hollywood Studios.
Good point. I mean, I mean nothing negative about that, but it does make a difference.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that at Hollywood Studios, or anywhere for that matter, I like to go to some of my favorite places, either right as lunchtime starts, which could be just before 11, because usually if we do that, we really didn't eat too much for breakfast, or you go at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which means that you've been grazing all day on popcorn and a bunch of other snacks, and finally you say, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's time for some real sustenance. Yeah. Go ahead and do that. I like the back lot because not only can you do your own drinks, but I just think their food is good. It's even for a burger or their chicken nuggets, or some simple fast food, it's really good. And what can I tell you? It's a good place to chow. So I will totally agree with that. What kind of places did you go for? What kind of places did you go for table services?
We didn't do table service. We just went quick service at all.
Okay. And what do you think your experience at Backlot? I mean, was it kind of mimicked at different places as well, or do you think that because it was Hollywood Studios, it was inherently dead?
Yeah, I think because it was Hollywood Studios, it was dead. I mean, where did we eat? We ate. I'm trying to think where we ate. We ate at Pico Bill's, Magic Kingdom. That place was packed, like ridiculous. I remember the line was out the door, and there was no seating, so we had to hover over people.
That's one of the bigger problems about Pecos Bill, is that seating there really is pretty bad. And as much as I hate to hover,
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. You know, I've kind of waited for it to go into the kill. Who's gonna get? Who's gonna get?
Yeah.
But no, I've done it, and I've tried not to be rude about it. And at the same time, if we see people that are hovering, we'll say, "Hey, we're leaving here in about 30 seconds."
Yeah, I do exactly the same thing. Because if I see somebody, like if I know we're gonna be leaving within the next minute or two, and I see somebody with a stroller and like 3 kids, I'm like, we're leaving in a couple of minutes, so you guys can come here. Just so they know.
You always try to be nice, and I always try to
Exactly.
I don't mean to sound like I'm targeting families, but yeah, especially if they've got younger kids or a stroller, or
Mm-hmm.
you've got a mom that's got, a number of kids, and I mean that with more than 2, because after that they outnumber the parents,
Yeah.
and that just becomes a challenge. It really does. I've been there. I've done that. So, Andrea, what about you? I mean, what kind of experiences did you have with dining, and like, what was some of your favorites? We'll start also with counter service, if you don't mind.
We actually didn't do much counter service. We did mostly sit-down meals, and
Okay.
if we did do counter service, it was back at Saratoga Springs. I did order a margarita through the mobile app at Hollywood Studios. That was fabulous.
Where did you get that from?
I think that was Backlot.
Also?
Yeah. And it was, I just walked right up and grabbed it and went back and sat while my family was on Star Tours, and it worked for me. I loved it.
Okay. That's really cool. So was that the only time you used the mobile app?
Yes.
Okay. And it worked out well. Everybody's been saying how cool that is to do the mobile app, that it just seems to work. I know people are waiting for the days that they can use some other method of payment other than a credit card or dining plan. Now you weren't on the dining plan, were you?
No, we do Tables in Wonderland.
Okay. And for people that don't know about Tables in Wonderland, you can get 20% off pretty much all table services, including alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned that because, if you think about it, that could actually, really add up. And you have to be an annual pass holder or a DVC member in order to get it. And at the same time, there is a cost for it. I think, what is it? It's is it $175 now, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm thinking it might be $175. It might be. I was thinking $125, but you might be right.
Yeah. So the thing of it is that, it sounds like a lot of money, but the fact of the matter is that if you do all table services, much like Andrea and her family did, and if you do multiple trips, you can easily pay for itself. And then after that, it's all gravy. It's all 20% on those particular pieces of dining. So what was your favorite dining for the trip?
California Grill, I think.
That's a special place in my heart. Everybody knows that. I'll stop drooling right now, but I have to say, I mean, did you have to get that at the 180-day mark, or were you able to get that sometime later?
The 180-day mark. Yes. It was great. And we ate in Canada too. That was really good. They were pretty hand in hand. I thought they were both really good, but you can't beat the view at California Grill.
Oh no. Especially for watching Happily Ever After.
Right.
It definitely makes a difference there. I enjoy it. Although you kind of miss the presentation on the castle, but they do pipe the music in. It really sounds good. And so I asked this with a little bit of a question mark sitting over my head. You would actually compare Le Cellier to being on the same plane as California Grill?
I thought so on this experience, anyhow.
Okay, which I'm going to make an assumption that you're saying that because Le Cellier was an exceptional experience rather than California Grill not being as good of an experience.
Right.
And I know it sounds a little presumptuous when I say something like that, but I've always enjoyed Le Cellier. I've always enjoyed it. I do want to try some of the other steakhouses because give me a good steak on a vacation, and I'm a happy guy. And let's face it, between the cheddar cheese soup, the pretzel, I call it the pretzel stick. The breadstick. It's actually a big pretzel. And when I was there, they always had the cream cheese mashed potatoes. These things are so rich and delicious.
Uh-huh.
They basically bypass the digestive system and turn directly into body fat. That's the way I enjoyed it. Well, I am glad to hear that you had a really good experience at Le Cellier. And so many people say that they haven't had good experiences. I'm glad to hear that you did, and that it was so good that you actually compared it to Kelly Grill. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that is really good to hear, especially during what is a very busy time for them.
Mhm.
A lot of times people say, hey, dining anywhere during a busy time, you're going to have some problems. You're going to get some issues. You're going to get some delays, but
Mhm.
really good to hear that. So that's really cool. When you say that you also did like only a couple counter services, and when you did, it was over near Saratoga. Was that over at Artist Palette, or was it near your section of the resort near one of the pools?
Artist palette.
I like Artist Palette.
I do too.
Danny, I just heard Danny go, It was like the timing was perfect there. The thing of it is that Artist Palette, for a relatively small
Mhm.
counter service type of dining, first off, if you get anything with their homemade chips,
Oh, they're
the chips,
amazing.
the chips themselves
Mm-hmm.
are a food group. Their flatbreads are really good. Their salads are really good. I've not had anything there I have not been satisfied with. It is such a nice little place, and it's nothing fancy, nothing
Mm-hmm.
nothing big, but it is just really a good little place. So Jesse, I'm going to go back to you for a second.
Yes.
Outside of Backlot, what would you say your best dining experience was while you were there?
I don't know. Let's see. I don't know. They were all pretty good. I mean, all we get is burgers. It's not like I don't really get like anything super fancy because we're just.
Did you go to Deluxe then?
Which one's that one?
Deluxe in Disney Springs.
No, we didn't do Disney Springs.
If you're a burger family, you gotta go hit up Deluxe Burger. I promise you. And listen, I am not a sweets guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm savory over sweets any day. You can ask her. We went to 1900 Park Fair. Everybody was getting cookies and cake. I got a piece of London broil. That's how I eat dessert.
Nice.
When you go to Deluxe Burger, they have all these burgers. They don't come with fries. You got to get fries extra. I think that's a bit of a ripoff. But they have a birthday cake milkshake. When I tell you, it will give you diabetes right on the spot. That's the unfortunate side of it. But it is delicious.
I'm gonna have to try that.
By the way, Jesse, I mean, don't just you guys may be a burger and fries kind of family. I'll be honest with you. I honestly think some of the better, quick serve type burgers I have had at Disney. And between that and I will more than happy to consume the adult chicken tender meals, because they are not only the tenders big, but they're juicy. They're usually not dry. I mean, people think that fast food has to be bland and boring, and rarely do I come across that at some of the quick serve places. I'll say like Electric Umbrella. I think it gets a bad rap. I love Electric Umbrella, and they used to have what was it? Was it there that had a burger that had like shaved beef or shaved pork on top of it? It was like a barbecue pork on top of a burger. My wife gets it all the time. Gosh, my mouth is watering.
Uncle Danny approves that message.
I mean, I really enjoyed it, and you can try different things at different resorts, but the fact of the matter stands, sometimes you just feel like a good burger. And So I have to ask. Where do you think the best burger is?
Restaurantosaurus for me. I like their burger.
Oh yeah, and I like to get. I'd like to get their burgers. I like to get a good thing of fries, and they have all the dipping sauces. And then I like to go a little out of the way, like towards the front of it, where you sit inside that converted mini Gulfstream type of camper type of thing. You kind of, it's like there's two larger tables in there. And we always go there. It's usually out of the way. No one's around. No one really bothers you. And we love to sit there and just listen to some of the music and just deal with some of the motif. And it's a nice place to kind of just chill out for about a half an hour. And it's usually nice and cold in there.
Yeah.
Where was it? I'm sorry, I haven't missed that.
Restaurantosaurus, right over by Dino Land at Animal Kingdom. And actually, the thing is, I like going over there because I think a lot of people stay away from Dino Land because they think it's just because it's kind of, it doesn't really belong there.
It doesn't.
You know, you're right. It doesn't technically, but it's fun. It still is. I mean, come on. As long as you go on Primeval Whirl before you go to Restaurantosaurus, then you're doing okay.
So I've got a question for the both of you.
Okay.
Since we like talking all this great food, making everybody hungry, as we wrap down the end of the show, before we let you go, I need to know one thing. What was the least favorite food item you had there? Because you know what? Disney trips are magical. We all get it. That's the pixie dust, all that nonsense that makes things go woo. At the end of the day, I don't like their pizza, and I don't like Coral Reef. So I stay clear of them so I don't have bad trips. But maybe someone who didn't know these things ventured inside one of these places. So was there anything you ate where you're like, maybe not necessarily like, ew, that was disgusting, more maybe I could definitely do without that next time around?
Who do you want to go first? I would say Mickey's Backyard Barbecue for me.
Wow, okay.
And I thought everything there would be, you know, your basic cookout food and it would be good, but I didn't really care for it. It was kind of, everything was kind of bland and it wasn't as good as I was expecting. But
And
we
they're
still had fun.
They're a little pricey too.
Yes.
So that one hurts a little bit.
Well, it's outside. And the part that kind of gets me is that you're paying that much for, you know, the food plus entertainment. But at the same time, if you go into summertime, you know, you are out there, you know, without any sort of air conditioning or anything like that. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. You get hot and you get especially really heated up, you don't want to eat. So, you know, it makes a big difference. And people don't believe me until they experience the heat of the summer themselves and they're on the deluxe dining plan. So it's kind of like, I told you. Jesse, what about you? Same question from Danny.
It wasn't necessarily a meal, but I bought a Mickey pretzel with the cheese. I did not like it, the cheese.
Oh, do you mean the plastic that they pass off as cheese?
Yes, the plastic cheese. I couldn't enjoy my pretzel anymore with that cheese. I mean, everything else was fine. That's the only complaint I would have about the food would be that pretzel.
I can respect that.
Now I got a taste for that pretzel.
With no cheese.
No cheese. No, I'm not a big. It's kind of joke. It's kind of a big joke because I try to stay away from excess carbs. And the funny part is, like, one time my wife got the cheese and she's like, "Hey Chris, look at 0 carbs per serving." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, fine. Here, I'll just go ahead and get a straw and suck the cheese." Oh, wrong. Bad.
That's because it's not really cheese. That's why there's no calories in it. Melted plastic's not bad for you.
It's pretty bad. Okay, so speaking of that, I will ask a very similar question again to both of you. What was like the worst experience that you had at the Disney parks? And Jesse, I'll even go ahead and I'll let you expand it to your experience that you had at Universal as well. Not that we're here to rip on Universal or anything like that, but it's kind of like, what was the low light of your trip? And Andrea, I'll start with you this time.
Um, Gosh, there's nothing's really sticking out that was bad, other than the second day we went to Magic Kingdom, which was Wednesday of the week before Easter. It was so crowded in Magic Kingdom that we really didn't get to do much that day. Um, but there wasn't really anything bad that happened. I think we still had a great trip despite the crowds, though.
I'm really glad to hear that. I mean, obviously, I don't ask a question like that to make it loaded, but I do know a family that just came back, and they're seasoned. They're seasoned Disney vets. They're DVC members, and they've been a number of times. And they kind of said, the biggest thing is I'll never go back during spring break. And they also mentioned that the transportation from Old Key West was less than stellar, as my interpretation of how they described it. And I really felt bad for them. I mean, they also ran into some issues and stuff like that that were kind of out of their control, out of Disney's control for that matter. But obviously, transportation is a big thing. I think transportation can, make people upset like nobody's business. And then at the same time, dealing with crowds. I mean, if you're just not mentally prepared for the crowds, it's going to get on your nerves like nails on a chalkboard. So that's one thing. I'm glad to hear that, through your preparations, and I do want to emphasize that as we start talking more about trip reports, I think we're going to start talking more about being prepared for these types of trips, and that's just really cool and good to hear. So on the other side, Jesse, what would you say was your low light trip?
Dumbo broke down when we were on it.
Oh,
It was me and my daughter, my 3-year-old, and it was spinning on top, and next thing you know, it just dropped like rather not sudden, but a little bit faster than normal. And then and it was kind of freaky, and then it just stopped moving, and then everybody's like, what happened? So something failed somewhere. So we all got off. We got off of the one Dumbo on the left. They were like, oh, well, we're going to fix this one. So they put us in the line for the other Dumbo on the right, and we got right back on. And then we saw them like messing with the other Dumbo, having it run a couple of cycles to see what had happened. Nobody knows, but that was it. That's the only downside. And nothing else. It was fine. It was my son. We went for my 8-year-old. It was his birthday in March, so he had a little pin. Everybody said happy birthday to him. All the cast members. He loved the attention. He got a hot dog for his birthday. Even at Universal Studios, they gave him a little pin, and they gave him like a pretzel at Universal Studios. So I mean, I have no complaints other than just Dumbo breaking down.
I kind of sit here and think of myself, when Dumbo turns into Tower of Terror, I realize, I would find a lot of humor in an attraction like that. However, to a 3-year-old,
it wasn't like alarming, but it was like, that's not supposed to do that. Like something's wrong.
So your daughter was cool with it, though.
Yeah, no, she was fine. She was oblivious.
Oh.
She was like, look, the castle.
You know what? To see your kids' eyes light up with something like that.
Oh yeah.
Crowds or no crowds. To spend time with the family in such a way where they don't care, but they're there. They see the castle. They see the characters. And they're there with their family and loved ones. I'll be honest with you, I really do get a little emotional thinking about stuff like that, because I wish I had, the 7-year-old version of my daughter and the 5-year-old version of my son to go and start these journeys again with them. And, I'm not trying to get super sentimental here, but the fact of the matter is that I am glad you guys had a good time, because sometimes it's not about worrying about the crowds. Sometimes it's all about making the memories with your family. And you guys sound like you had a fantastic time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure, there were probably some things that did not go perfectly well, but you guys have definitely shown us that even though your trips were significantly different in the sense of, where you stayed, how you got down there. Actually, Andrea, I didn't ask, did you drive or fly from Maryland?
We drove.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I assumed that you flew, but okay. And how long was your drive? I have to ask.
Like 16 hours. We drove like a little more than halfway the first day, and then the rest of the way on the second day. So we stayed at a hotel in South Carolina.
Okay.
So you're more further south in Maryland then, right? For 16 hours, I would think, right?
Yeah, we're like Southern Anne Arundel, so it's in the southern half.
Yeah, because I've got family in like Port Deposit, Chesapeake
Okay.
Bay up there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but yeah, I am really glad to hear that, and I just really honestly think that it kind of goes to show that people shouldn't be afraid to go during spring break. It just requires a little extra planning. And speaking of planning, did either one of you use any kind of a subscription like touring plans or anything like that to kind of help guide you up to that point?
No.
Good for you.
I think that's great. I mean, I use touring plans a lot. But my use of how I use it nowadays is a whole lot different than what I have used. But that's really cool. All righty. Well, Danny, are we kind of at that parting time right now, I guess?
We would be, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, Andrea, do you have any last words for our listeners today?
I would just say don't be afraid of spring break. Just plan ahead and take the time and enjoy it. I love the weather. I love Epcot's Flower and Garden Festival. That's why I will always want to go in the springtime. But with kids in high school and middle school, I have to go when they don't have school. So spring break it is. And we had a great time.
Yep, I totally get it. And as they get older, things happen in the summertime. And it becomes harder and harder to find that week that you can take off in the summertime. Yep, I definitely know. Reason why, last year we did our schedule the way we did it was strictly because of, when my daughter was going to be going off to school and my son wasn't going to summer camp and stuff like that. I totally get it. Jesse, what about you for your final parting words for tonight?
Enjoy it. Plan, but if things don't go as planned, don't panic.
Exactly.
Like
that.
don't sweat the small stuff. Just enjoy it, because you're there, like you say. You're there to see the smile on your kids' faces, and just enjoy it. And if you're gonna get an AP, try to get an AP like spring break one year, and then where you still are able to use it spring break the next year. So at least you'll get 2 weeks out of it. Whatever you do in between, that's up to you.
Listen, I'm sorry, Danny, you were going to say something?
No, I was agreeing. That's a really good plan.
Cool. Well, listen, Andrea, Jesse, thank you so much for being our guest tonight here on the show. We really appreciate the time that you've taken to talk to us a little bit about it. Really enjoyed it. I think our viewers for tonight have really enjoyed it. We'll be going through some of their questions after the show like we usually do. And we hope that everybody who listens also on our podcast will also enjoy it and to consider a spring break trip possibly next year. So Danny, why don't you go ahead and take us home?
Thank you, everybody. You know what? First, before I do my routine, Andrea, Jesse, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was an absolute pleasure to have you guys on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
With that being said, don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms. Facebook is Behind the Ears Podcast, Instagram Behind the Ears Podcast, and that pesky Twitter, Behind the Ears PC. Any listener questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to email us at behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. Trisha would kill me if I didn't mention it, so I even threw it up on the screen to help people who might not be able to hear us very well. Now you can read it right there. You could join the WDW Community Facebook page simply by asking to join today. 4,000 members and growing. Invite a friend. Make it a party. You can check us out on YouTube at Behind the Ears Podcast. And lastly, just do me that favor. Head on over to iTunes and give us a rate and review. I know it sounds trivial, but I promise you there is a reason for that. So with that being said, everybody, don't forget to tuck your kids in tight at night. Consider a Disney trip in the spring break. Drink that cranberry juice. I'm Uncle Danny. I bid you all adieu.
And I'm Mr. Chris. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. We really appreciate all your support. And by all means, while you're rating and reviewing, hey, don't forget to subscribe. That's one of the things that as we kick out these shows, even though you may watch us live, you should also take a listen to us on our podcast. And if you subscribe, then you will get the newest show without even trying. Every time Danny releases one of our shows, I get an alert, and I use the Podbean app, which is actually a really cool app, by the way. You can also listen to us at Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Alexa. We'll also play you, as well as anything from Google Home and Google Play Music will also get you to the show. Well, with that said, thank you so much for being here tonight, everybody. We really appreciate it, and we can't wait to talk to you again soon. Take care.